Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the S.H.Figuarts Sanji. Now this is the third release in the new lineup of One Piece S.H.Figuarts, because they did try and tackle these many years ago, and it didn't really pan out that well, and it's sort of not really panning out that well right now either, with the Luffy figure released earlier this year being okay, and the Zoro being pretty disappointing. Now, there were good parts about those figures, but generally they were a bit of a disappointment, especially since One Piece is at its peak right now, both in manga and anime popularity. So they really sort of needed to deliver on these figures, and unfortunately they didn't. And it's not like they're bad, it's just that they could have been so much more, especially considering the Naruto line and the Dragon Ball line are in an absolute peak at the moment. And they're doing a bunch of other things like Chainsaw Man, Spy Family, Bleach, Berserk. Like, Tamashii Nations are absolutely nailing it right now in terms of IP, and a lot of those figures are turning out fantastic as well. So it's a bit of a shame that One Piece is suffering, but Sanji is here to fix things. Now, I did pick this Sanji up on release in Japan, and I got to play with him a bit then, and I was pleasantly surprised that he was way better than the other two releases. And while I wouldn't say he's going to save the line, I think he is a very necessary step forward, and a good baseline for the line going forward. So, taking a quick look at the box, it's the same design as a lot of the other One Piece S.H.Figuarts, so clear window into the front and promo image on the side, a bunch of little comic book panel images on the side, a bunch of promo shots on the back, and Sanji's name on the other side. Taking him out of the box, you can see all the accessories he comes with. So he comes with 5 faces, as well as an additional face for Luffy. This is pretty much what they're doing with all of the One Piece figures. They just all come with a face for Luffy. They're all standard release, so I think it's fine. If you don't have a Luffy, it is a bit awkward, but I don't mind it that much. So in terms of pairs of hands, he only comes with open hands and closed fists, but he does have several unique hands. So he's got a right hand with a cigarette. He's got a right hand that sort of looks like it's holding something, but it's not super clear. I think it's meant to be to like adjust his tie. And he comes with a swappable left leg pocket, which connects to his arm. So it's like his hand is in his pocket. I will say it now, it is a shame that we don't get 2 of these for each side, because it'd be nice to just have a variety and be able to change the pose up however we want, same as like a cigarette in either hand. But I don't mind it too much. And the other major part is he comes with effect pieces. So he comes with 2 swappable legs, and they are both unique for the right and left leg, and the flame effects are unique. One is sort of like trailing behind, and one is sort of trailing in front. And both of them are fantastic, they look great, and we will get into them as we look closer at the figure. So propped up on a display here is the Sanji. This is Sanji's design from Wano, or at least the most recent parts of Wano. So he's got this sort of burgundy suit, which is different to sort of Sanji for most of the series really, where he's got a black suit. And while I think that the burgundy works pretty well, I would have preferred a black suit for Sanji, just because that's sort of how I recognize him for a vast majority of the franchise. Sanji also isn't my favourite Straw Hat, and especially since the time skip, he's sort of been slipping because they've really dialed up his perviness quite a bit, and it is annoying. But in terms of capturing the likeness of the character, I think this figure is pretty damn good. Everything looks on point. There is minor paint detailing, just because S.H.Figuarts don't do that much paint anymore, but what is there is really good. Surprisingly, there is shading on his hair, and I think it adds quite a bit of depth to the character. But it is a little bit inconsistent considering that Luffy had no shading but didn't really need to because it's black hair, and Zoro didn't have any shading. But otherwise, all of the detail work is fantastic. The faces all look great. All of that line work is clean. It's also interesting because when you pop off the hair for Sanji, there is a fully detailed right eye underneath his bangs, so it is cool to have that sort of consistency. Now we'll jump right into posability. So Sanji has a ball joint at the head, which allows for pretty free movement, and you can bend the neck a bit for a bit more, so he can look down that far, which is fantastic, and he can look up that far, which is pretty good. Now, just pulling his arms out, they don't really go out that far. You need to rotate the shoulder a bit. So it is a bit awkward getting his arms into nice looking poses or just like straight out horizontal. He does have a bend at the elbow as well as a ball hinge at the wrist, as well as an upper arm swivel. He has a butterfly joint, so you can get his arms together in the front, which is nice, something that is kind of lacking in the One Piece line so far. He has a ball joint in his chest, which allows him to rotate and crunch, and it keeps the sculpt going, which is nice, so he can bend back that far and forward that far. There is a swivel at the waist. He can kick forward that far and back a little bit. The back could have been better, but I think it's fine. He's got a bend at the knee and a hinge at the ankle and toes, which allows for a nice pivot and bend. The jacket is also a soft material, so it doesn't get in the way of any high kicks, which is nice considering the Zoro was restrictive, to say the least. Sanji comes with 5 faces, so he's got a standard neutral face, love heart, eyes, smiley face, a smile with a cigarette in his mouth, a serious yelling face with a cigarette in his mouth, as well as a actually stunned shock face, which is weird but kind of cool. A lot of detail work went into these. And the Luffy face he comes with is a hungry face, which is a bit of a shame that Sanji doesn't come with any food or anything like that, because it would be nice if it paired with Luffy, but there is plenty of scaled food that would work at this sort of level. But again, it's something that is kind of lacking. But all of the faces look absolutely fantastic, and with those and his accessories, you can get a lot out of this figure. His feet parts in particular are very nice because they allow for extra articulation. They have about the same amount of articulation as his regular foot, so there's a bend at the toe as well as a hinge at the ankle. So it is nice to be able to pose them up a little bit. But you can get a good dynamic range out of him. His stability as a figure is actually quite good. You don't need a base for some of his poses, but it is highly recommended. And you can create a bit of visual trickery with rotating his waist and performing high kicks to make it look even more dynamic than it is already. But I think that even though he doesn't have a lot of hands, I think what he does have allows for nice static posing and nice dynamic posing. Sanji doesn't use his hands that much because they're the tools of a chef, so it is understandable that he doesn't have a huge array of hands, but there is stuff that would be nice if it was included. But generally the effect part for his legs is very, very good, and it works very, very well, so I don't mind it too much. And the swappable pocket is a very cool accessory, again would be cool to have too. And here's a quick size comparison with Sanji. Here he is next to the Luffy S.H.Figuarts and next to the Zoro S.H.Figuarts. So you can see they all scale rather well together and they all look good together. I would like us to have an entire group of Straw Hats in the S.H.Figuarts scale at some point, but I know that that is going to be very hard, especially with characters like Chopper, Frankie, and Brook. But I still think they should do it. It would be nice. I just want them all in the same scale for once and not breaking the bank. But yeah, Sanji may not have really saved the line so much, but I think he is a ray of light going forward. We can sort of see things improving and they're learning a bit from it. I feel like the first two were sort of prototypes, and granted the amount of effort that goes into these is years of work, so is like months and years of work, so it wasn't like the Luffy came out and they had to quickly readjust the Sanji or anything like that. It was more so probably during the planning and execution phase they were learning as they were going along. So the Luffy and the Zoro were probably like drafts and they did what they could with the time given, and Sanji benefited from what they'd learned from those original sculpts. So I think next year the figures going forward with the One Piece line will be much better. Or at least that's what I hope. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.